Salam Ihwat, Hawhum Captain Dawit. Lomi, I got some special guests from the diaspora, the Blue Revolution. First, uh, I would like to introduce you to our sister Fevin. I'll give her the opportunity to introduce herself, Helen, and then Jonas. Today's discussion um, is about the Blue Revolution, how it relates to transnational oppression, and what's next for Eritrea and Eritreans. Fevin, welcome. Unmute your mic and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Captain. Hi, everyone. My name is Fevin Moussier. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, for those of you who may not know me. I am so honored to be here with my brothers and sisters, those who are in this fight for justice, who are part of this Blue Revolution. And it's just an honor to be able to be a representative for the diaspora. I would say it's come a long time coming to open up this platform for the diaspora, for English speakers, and also for the global community to bring more awareness to our fight, our movement, and this revolution that we're taking part in, and this history that we're taking part in every day. So, yeah, glad to be here.
Excellent. Welcome, Fevin Musahaftina. Next on the mic, we have our sister Helen Guerre. Welcome, Helen. Tell us who you are, what you're doing, and part of this movement, and so on.
All right. Thank you. I'm Helen. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. I am, so I'm a Eritrean American advocate, pro-democracy, pro-regime change, and very excited to be a part of this platform, a part of this panel, Next.
Excellent. Welcome, Helu. And of course, you guys know our brother Jonas Weldu, our tough brother Jonas Weldu. Welcome, Jonas Weldu. Introduce yourself.
And I appreciate you, Captain. But it's an honor to be on this platform with you, Fevin, and Helen. It's about that time where the diaspora community speaks up, speaks loud. We're working pretty hard behind the scenes, but now we think we're going to bring it out to the front and be a good representation of the Eritrean American community. So I appreciate you guys. Continue.
Excellent. Welcome, Jonas. So, you know what, everyone, brothers and sisters, today this program will be in English. I'm a little under the weather, sorry. We will flow in a timeliness manner. The questions that we're going to be, or topics that we're going to be discussing are relevant to the Eritrean diaspora, and not just in America, Canada, Europe. These questions for the English-speaking Eritreans who don't understand Tigrina, where our brothers and sisters are here to discuss this in an open format and kind of fill you in their feelings and their perspective and their perception of what the movement is and what they expect from it. So, Blue Revolution, how it relates to transnational oppression, what's next for Eritreans? First thing we're going to discuss, recap of Blue Revolution. In 1 year, in the past year and a half, the Blue Revolution has met a turning point for the opposition. Some would say climax. I would like to say turning point because climax could also mean end, but there is no end. It's just the beginning. So how do we get here? How did we achieve a turning point? Let's start with Fevin.
Thank you, Captain. You're absolutely correct. This has been a remarkable year to be a part of, to say the least, especially for someone who not new to the to activism work, especially for standing up for justice, using my voice to fight for freedom in Eritrea, to reclaim Eritrea, to fight for justice for my people, and to be a voice for change. If you want to be change, you got to be the change first. So I've been a part of this movement, the fight for justice, from I would say for me personally, about 2019. And this is just something that has been unprecedented this whole past year. We have seen for the first time people from different opposition groups across the board, because within on the side of justice seekers, you have different opposition groups, you have different, segments, different factions. And for the first time, the Blue Revolution, Brigade Hamadu, has been able to bring everybody to one platform, has been able to bring everyone into this one wave. And we're all chanting and crying out the same thing. And that's for lack of better words, just it's amazing, especially with Eritreans. We are very stubborn-minded people, I would say, in the sense that we have our beliefs and we have our standings and set, I should say, ideologies and mindsets. But the Blue Revolution in itself has brought about 32 years of struggle, 32 years of voices up from our forefathers, beginning with our forefathers and foremothers who have been in the diaspora for years and years and years, fighting, peacefully protesting, sitting down and having table talk dialogue, really crying out and saying that we are suffering and we are being oppressed in our country and our people are being oppressed under the hands of a dictator. And 32 years of essentially a silent genocide taking control over us. A silent genocide that the global community is not necessarily aware of. But because of Brigade Hamadu, because of the Blue Revolution, because of our united and collective voices, we have for the first time brought global awareness, global attention to what we are fighting back home. So, it's been, a long time coming, and we're finally speaking in the language of our enemy. 32 years of peaceful protests, 32 years of peaceful discord, we did that. Now, this year, Higdef, they want to oppress us. They want to use control through tight fists and through means of, threat, through means of violence. We'll show them what Brigade Hamadu can do too.
Thank you, Fabian. Eloquently stated. Helen, your turn. So, recap of Blue Revolution in the past year. What have you seen? What makes Blue Revolution special as an Eritrean diaspora? Despite all the smear campaigns and attacks and all that, what have you seen that's been galvanized different from our fathers in this past year and a half? And what turning point are we on now? Because you're starting to see a lot of movement within the Blue Revolution and certain people moving plan B to plan A and so on. What are your thoughts on that?
All right. So I think what we see is that we've seen like a big change over, the opposition has been around for decades. Right now it's the topic. It's making headlines everywhere across the globe. Countries, a lot of people didn't even know what Eritrea is. You think that we made a point where, hey, we're finally on the map. And because of everything that's been going on, even including the terrorists that they caught in North Carolina. How many Eritreans live in North Carolina to say they never even heard of this country? They just labeled Eritrea as a country next to Yemen. So we're definitely making headlines now. And I say that probably the reason is the reason for this climax or turning point, well, one of the reasons to me is because it's a new generation fighting now. They have passed the torch. So you have people, you have a youth that are actual victims of this regime. And they've seen a lot. leaving Eritrea, the hazardous routes going to Europe, to Libya, and whatnot. And then you also have on top of the refugee crisis, we've lost. I think our population it just keeps decreasing from what I remember based on my research, but we also were just in a census war. So I think that pretty much is what triggered everyone kind of countering these events, these propaganda events, and pretty much.
So Helen, let me ask you, not to interrupt you, but even though we understand the propaganda and we've been countering the propaganda events, do you feel like we came to a different level from our father's fight? Or do you think we're at the same level as they were?
Our father's fight in diaspora, or
in the diaspora?
Definitely different level. Definitely different level, because I can't express how proud I am that these people know the rights, and they might have a problem kind of translating it in English, but these people know their rights. They might not know their limits, but they know their rights.
Excellent. I appreciate that. No, well stated. Jonas, will do. Your turn. You're involved in everything, whether it's diplomacy or congressional members. You and I have been at this for a while. Your recap of the Blue Revolution. What do you see? What changes do you see?
Thanks, Captain. Thanks for the question. Yeah, I mean, we're active. We're pretty active in as many things as we can get into, and I think the activism and so forth created a Blue Revolution organically. It came from the people. It started off in London, Europe area, and so forth, and it galvanized globally. And so we all embraced it, and it comes down to people don't want to be oppressed. It's that clear. It's not complicated. People want choice, democracy, and so forth. It's that clear. The reality is the people that started it off were all people that lived in Eritrea, and then they took refuge. And instead of waiting for the UNHCR to resettle them, they decided to cross the Mediterranean Sea. And when they got here to Europe or London or America or Canada, wherever they got, and they witnessed these Eritrean government supporters supporting the government while they just experience the grievances, you got to imagine how they feel. And the key component that's missing right now is the diaspora community that grew up out here needs to speak up about it. Unfortunately, Isaias Afwerki has the same mindset, meaning he wants to invest in the diaspora community. So therefore, he opens up organizations called YPFDJ. And the reason why he wants to invest in them is because he wants to take advantage of them not knowing what's going on, and then leverage the money that they can bring into the country to keep himself in power. And that's the reality of the situation. And the evidence of that is the people who are in Eritrea call you bellis. The reason why they call you bellis is because you come in seasonally and you say how great the country is. And they're experiencing all this oppression. And then you come back out to America and talk about all the good things without recognizing the injustice. So as the diaspora community here, I think it's our responsibility to advocate for rights, for Eritrean rights.
Can you tell us what bellis is, Jonas?
Oh, bellis is the fruit that comes in seasonally, comes in and out.
Cactus.
Cactus. And it comes in seasonally, in and out. So they come in in Eritrea, in and out during the summertime, like a bellis. So they have that. So, and you can go ask any Eritrean from Eritrea. They'll tell you why they call you bellis. And then you can understand more about the frustration that they have. So, I mean, the Blue Revolution is definitely organic. I really like how all the civic organizations are getting involved and so forth. And we'll talk about that more later on. But I hope I answered the question, Captain.
Yeah, Perfect. Thank you. No, you did well. So now let's get into transnational repression. Before we get into transnational repression, I would like to share this video. Now, we noticed that in Holland, was it Holland, right, Fevin? Holland? About Holland, right?
Norway.
Was it Norway that passed it or Holland? It was Norway, right?
Norway.
Norway.
Yeah, Norway. Norway passed transnational repression. But did they pass it or did they take it to the parliament? Because that is a huge step for the opposition. And as far as transnational repression goes, you have heavy hitters that are well known, Martin Ploud, Timnit Gebru, certain individuals that are well known, that that expound on transnational repression. Now, what is transnational repression? On top of that, before I'm gonna share this video because the Chinese utilizes transnational repression. Russia, these are communist countries in relation to Eritrea. Obviously, Isaias Forky went to school in China. When I share this video, listen closely and then relate it to what we got going on. Because if Norway passed it, it turns out USA actually had the Transnational Repression Act by the senator in Oregon, Merkley, and in Florida, Rubio. These senators put it on the table. I don't know where it's at and why it hasn't received any support, but it is our duty to ensure that this act is passed. Now, let me share this video, and then from there, you guys can see what we're talking about here. 1 second. Let's see where it is. Okay, make it bigger. I'm gonna play this. Listen carefully. And then maybe those who don't understand what transnational repression is, they'll have an understanding.
Transnational repression is central to the Chinese Communist Party's strategy of silencing critics of Chinese policy around the world. It affects so many of the Uyghurs, the Hong Kongers, the Tibetans, the human rights advocates, the journalists, and others this commission works with on a daily basis. This hearing gives us a chance to give a platform to some of the victims and experts from across the globe who have been most engaged in trying to identify ways we can address this vexing challenge. We know from past testimony that it isn't easy, as the Chinese Communist Party's sophisticated tactics seem to know no bounds and bring the power of a ruthless state against individual dissidents, members of Chinese diaspora, and insidiously their family members in China. That's why it's so critical that we redouble the efforts to wrap our minds around the dimensions of this threat, to raise awareness globally, to identify ways to build common cause with those who have been targeted. Religious groups, activists, journalists, politicians, as well as governments sick and tired of the brazen violation of sovereignty and transnational repression represents. Last year, I chaired another hearing on this topic to hear about what the Biden administration is doing about it, and I'm proud that one of the officials at the forefront of that work, Undersecretary Azrazea, is now one of our commissioners. The State Department is dedicated and is continuing to apply significant time and attention to develop a more comprehensive strategy to counter, deter, mitigate these threats. We have also seen the Department of Justice make important strides in pursuing criminal charges against groups and individuals accused of engaging in transnational repression.
Criminal charges.
Despite these efforts, this commission's reporting shows how far we have to go. We continue to track a disturbing number of cases of transnational repression, both here in the United States and abroad, with the knowledge that countless others are taking place and likely not being reported on. I imagine that for every case we hear, there's another 10 we don't know about. We have seen egregious harassment campaigns, even against legislators in the world, including Honorable Michael Chong, who is here as a member of the Canadian House of Commons. We have seen relentless targeting of young activists who have spoken out bravely against the increasingly repressive conditions in Hong Kong. And we have seen the unrelenting pressure that continues.
Now, my brothers and sisters, everything that as Eritrean diaspora that we've been screaming about, Senator Merkley, Mr. Merkley, put it out there. It is exactly what we're experiencing, transnational repression. What is transnational repression? He just spelled it out for you. On top of that, he even defines what they do to the diaspora. So, as Eritrean diaspora, most of our fathers were afraid to speak out about this type of stuff. Well, some. My fathers and them came out blatantly, was out there, but some of us did, some of them didn't. That's because they didn't want to suffer in the diaspora and they didn't want to suffer back home because there's connection to their families back home. So not only are you controlled back home systematically, you're also controlled here in the diaspora because they have that leverage. So, Fevin, transnational repression. What do you think transnational repression is to you? What examples do you have, in your own words, how you see transnational repression occurring in the United States? Thank you.
Good question.
Yeah, thank you, Captain. So of course, if we, go back to the fundamental reason why we're all here, um, my brothers, sisters that are here with me today, Helen, Jonas, Captain, we were all born in diaspora, meaning out of Eritrea, or outside of Eritrea, I should say. Our parents, the reason why they fled Eritrea, especially if you are part of the generation that fled after independence, is because, life was essentially unlivable within Eritrea. You're unable to prosper, unable to have practice your fundamental God-given rights. And everything within Eritrea is controlled by Higdef and Isaias Afwerki. And this is his way of maintaining power through tight grip amongst or upon the population. So we have people who flee the country in order, in the pursuit for democracy, in pursuit for prosperity, in the pursuit to practice their fundamental rights, to have rights and to, be respected as a human counterpart in this society. So when you leave Eritrea and you flee to most places where we see Eritreans flee, which is in the West and they're exiled, or seek refuge in the Western world. This is the territory of democracy. Now, what we see happening with Higdef, Isaias Afwerki, is the long arms. So now they've reached out of Eritrea, reached in territory that is not theirs, and are now on democratic grounds, democratic soil in the free world, practicing their same mechanisms, same tools that we're using for oppression, authoritarianship within Eritrea, and now using that to threaten us here in the free world, whether that be Europe, Canada, United States, etc. And this is absolutely, unacceptable. It's unacceptable. It's a threat to democracy. It's a threat to the fundamental pillars of the United States Constitution, because the United States Constitution, any citizen or any person that lives on this land is a free man. So if I cannot live on this land as a free man because of the long arm reach of Isaias Afwerki, that is not only putting me at threat, that is putting the community at threat and other communities outside of the Eritrean communities at threat as well. Because of what Higdef is doing in the communities with their long arm reach, utilizing 4G, which we'll get into, which is that's a militia front, stated clearly by Minister of Information Yamane Jimeskan. I want to make sure I got his name correct. Stated clearly that is a militia front and agents of the government that are here in the free world, causing, raising havoc, putting threats upon Eritreans through digital threats, in-person threats to our families back home, threats to our living here, and we cannot live in a state of feeling safe, feeling protected by the laws that are set in place by the United States government, and any other free Western world at that. So yeah, I don't want to take, time for everybody.
Excuse me. Absolutely. You
I
stated
think
that.
Isaias Afwerki and the regime, this is just an extended arm that they're using, and that's what we call transnational repression, is the extended arm of dictatorship.
Absolutely. Thank you, Fevin. So we did hit transnational repression pretty hard. So I'm gonna jump to the next part of the transnational repression. But before I do, there's 500 people in attendance, 497 watching right now. I'm sure you guys can't see that, but I can see that. Thank you for tuning in. If you can, share Goboro Nazi. How much them please share this. Let's get this. We're trying to grow this YouTube. We need to have a forum for the diaspora and the youth in the Blue Revolution to actually come here and have our own discussions like this, right? Where you guys have an opportunity to take the YouTube and do what you need to do and say what you need to say. Has to be open. So with that said,
if you an opportunity, Captain, I just want you to hit, before we get off the topic of transnational repression, specifically hit on the point that through means of transnational repression, through violence that took place, if we go back to a few months ago, in the summer months, I'm already forgetting what month it was, but the situation that happened in Israel. Preceding weeks from there, we lost our first fallen soldier, fallen comrade in this movement, from Brigadier Hamadou from the Blue Revolution. So I want to take the time to remember him and really, make sure the diaspora is aware, the global community is aware of the sacrifices and the prices that are being paid for this fight that we're fighting. This is not something that we're saying down for anymore. This is something that we're putting our livelihood, that we're risking our life, our families, where we're paying the highest cost. And Isaias Afwerki, for the first time, and his slaves, this is the first time that they're seeing any opposition group as a threat. Let that sink in. Because they see us as a threat, because they see us as so powerful, something that can really, what's the word I'm looking for? Fight for their power, or I should say, a threat to their seat of power. They took transnational repression to the extent of killing one of our own. So if we can talk on that, I think that's something really important, because transnational repression in itself is also violence, repression through fear and violence as well.
I wanted to highlight something about transnational repression by the Eritrean regime in the diaspora. So transnational repression can come in many forms, and I'm going to give some examples that we can all find on the FBI's website. That's stalking, harassment, hacking, assaults, attempted kidnapping, forcing or coercing the victim to return to the country of origin, threatening or detaining family members of the country, freezing financial assets, and online disinformation campaigns. Most, if not all, but most, is what we see practiced by the Eritrean regime, and it's the embassies all over America, Europe, Canada, countries like Israel, just like Fevin mentioned, members of the 4G, Fourth Front group, assaulted people, a part of the Blue Revolution, for their beliefs. Even in Charlotte, people like myself, I get threats all the time. We see disinformation campaigns all the time. That's what Yamana G. Meskel's job is on Twitter, the Minister of Misinformation, as we call him, the Minister of Disinformation. So we also see harassment. We get harassed all the time. People stalk us. I mean, the four of us, we all are not allowed to go back home for a reason, because we're vocal. So these are all examples that I just wanted to highlight. This is why we are fighting for transnational repression. We didn't just make this up. This is things that are actually happening by the Eritrean regime.
Excellent. Before you guys continue, I would like to add one more thing, and I'm going to show this. And I've showed this many times. Let me go big one time. Okay, you see this book, what? Do you see this book? This is a book that we got in Seattle at the festival in Seattle. This book right here is the teachings of communism and Joseph Stalin ideology. And it seems to me that perhaps had we not went to that Salam al-Selfie or demonstration, we would have not found this book. This book is very, very damning and alarming. So they were passing this book around, and it's in Tigrina. It's written in Tigrina, right? And in this book, the level of intelligence, the guy writes his name, his socials, phone number, and everything on the back of it, right? So if I've handed this to law enforcement, they read it, they couldn't believe it. They're like, these festivals are hosting communism. This is an actual rewrite of Joseph Stalin communism, and how to destroy democratic nations like America, Europe, and so on. This was for 601 people watching this. This was found at the Seattle event that the festival goers were passing this to all the children at the festival. This is what we're up against. Unfortunately, for the youth in the diaspora, they do not know what type of brainwashing, what type of propaganda machine is being utilized against them. Yamane Government Scale has blocked each one of us on Twitter, including me. What does that tell you? We're hitting home. We're resonating. We're making a difference. Now, let's discuss, first and foremost, respect our brother that passed in Israel. He was a warrior. May he rest in peace. Respect to our brothers that meet, whether they were in North Carolina, Seattle, wherever they were. The SWAT is awful. They paid the price, right? These are heroes of the revolution, right? To include our lovely sister Lala up front, right? She's up front. Now we have people like John Black, Marsawi, and individuals that are still facing the system, the very system that we're fighting to protect. As an American, as an Eritrean American, it is my duty to protect America from enemies, foreign and domestic. I swore this twice. Once when I became a citizen, and the second time when I joined the military. So why is it, as an American citizen, we can't blow the whistle and say we've identified an insider threat, transnational repression, and we're attempting to protect the countries that we live in? Why is there so much resistance? Because the very system we're trying to protect, that gave us the right to be free, is also in the middle, kind of trying to give rights to the people that are attacking the Eritrean diaspora. So it's 50-50. The very system also works against us, that we're trying to protect the system, right? So Jonas, well do. Your mic.
Yeah, so Captain, that was a good point that you made. So, and then the reality is that's why we're advocating bringing awareness to the situation. And a good example of transnational repression by Higdef is 4G. 4G is transnational repression because you got a group of people who, some of them claimed asylum, and then they flipped it and turned around and supported the government they just ran away from. And then they're out here attacking people like Brigadier Hamadou, Eritrean justice seekers, whoever. There's documentation of it. They come up with guns and so forth. And then they're the same ones who complain about the aggressive advocacy that Brigadier Hamadou does. They're complaining about rock throwing and so forth, and they're ignoring the injustice that's going on in Eritrea. And that's a hypocrisy. The same energy you have on that rock is the same energy you can have on the people who are being detained unjustly in Eritrea for over 15 years, over 20 years. And the sad part is, you know, people who are detained, even the YPF DJ camp, you know, people who've been unjustly detained, but you're choosing to ignore it so that you fall into the selfish category. So what we're trying to do now is educate, educate, educate. And the one who are committing transnational repression, report, report, report. That's what it comes down to. And so I just want to emphasize 4G is transnational repression because they're under the direction of Higdef, according to Higdef. Hizbi Gumbad is on top of all the movements, YPFDJ, 4G, NCEA, all that, according to who? Higdef. So there's no secret. So now that you know what you know, you have a choice. Either you're going to be for a justice, democracy, inclusivity, or you're going to be for a one-party system and ignore the injustice and allow everyone to be oppressed, your own brothers and sisters to be oppressed. Simple choices. You don't have to choose between Brigadier Hamadou and Higdef. All you have to do is choose justice. And then you'll see it's going to be in alignment with Eritrean justice seekers. It's that simple, not complicated. All right, go ahead, Captain.
Choose
Yeah,
between
before,
right or wrong. It's a moral question. It's a moral question of right or wrong at the end of the day.
yeah,
That's
pretty
all it
much.
is. Yeah.
But listen, guys, so let's break down maybe the diaspora, the ones that grew up here that only speak English. Often, two times when I actually link up with them and we have a discussion, whether we're going back and forth, there are things that's unbeknownst to them. There's things that they don't know. For example, they see festival, they go to the festival. They just say Eritrean festival. That's it. That's all they know. They don't understand this pimpology. I call it pimp. The pimp is the ambassador charged the affairs. The way it works is Isaias Afwerki will never call Eritrean ambassadors ambassadors. He only calls them charged the affairs. There's a difference in ambassador and charged the affairs. Charged the affairs is temporary position. Ambassador is a permanent position. Now, he orders them katat to collect money. How do they collect money? Festivals and so on, right? Festivals, church, 50%, TASA, 2% taxation, and so on. But here's what the Eritrean youth doesn't understand, how they're being played and manipulated. They utilize Eritreanism and the flag, and they dig into their father's history in Tarikh na Eritrea. They dig into their mother's history, Huzbao Gumbar, right? And they say, are you a patriot? Do you believe in your country? This is how they come at them. And the youth, they're like, yeah, I'm Eritrean. So now you have the youth trying to prove they're Eritrean. But what they're not seeing is the fact that there's NCEA, North America Eritrean Association. Under that, there's an umbrella, right? From Eritrea to the Charge d'Affaires, to the NCEA, to the ECCC, to the PFDJ, to the YPFDJ, to the Mahabracom, to the ESAG, and all these organizations that it trickles down. So when they run the festivals, send the money here, send the money here, send the money here. And the ambassador charged the affairs collects the money and has somehow found a way to get the money to Eritrea. If the US government was to actually follow every single cent and do an audit and all these events, they can actually open the situation and figure out what all the crimes and everything else that's being conducted on American soil, to include creation of a paramilitary organization on American soil. Now, what is the Blue Revolution doing to stop transnational repression? Open mic.
Captain, let me answer that question, and then I gotta get going on my end. But I'm gonna make 2 points before I go. The main thing I wanted to emphasize was we just need to keep bringing it to everybody's attention and disclose who Hizbi Gumbad is, and how they control all these organizations they're affiliated with. And I wanted to share a quick story about even with my personal experience. One of the Hizbi Gumbad affiliates or leadership, or however you want to call them, agent, I guess you can say, offered me an Eritrean ID. And he said, "How do you?" And I told him, "No, I don't need it." And then he said, "How would you know you're Eritrean?" And I thought about it, like, I know who I am. And so I don't need an ID. I told him I don't want to be governed by another country's rule when I'm witnessing them oppressing everybody else. And then he tried to keep being persuaded and so forth. At the end, he failed. But the sad part is, what I know is the same individual, imagine how many agents there are in the United States convincing people to get Eritrean IDs, to renew their IDs, knowing that they're giving up their rights by getting an ID. That's the reality of it. You're giving up your American rights, or your human rights, I should say. You're giving up your human rights in the nation that you're hosted in, or in the nation that you were born in, or in the nation that you live in, right? For an Eritrean ID. That's the reality of it. And so that's, to me, that's a form of transnational oppression, because they're not disclosing that you're giving up your rights. The other thing, there are people who did not know that they're told to go back to Eritrea and so forth, or forced to go back to Eritrea. They didn't know that's transnational repression. So that's something that needs to be educated and so forth. If so, let it be known. Who told you to go back to Eritrea by force? Because the Chinese government, they do the same thing. And so that's transnational repression. So that's something that we need to emphasize. So that's what I want to, a couple points. And then the last point I want to make before I head out is the blue Malay flag. Let's make it very clear. That blue Malay flag is an Eritrean flag, period. It stands for, to me, the way I look at it is, that's the last time Eritrea had a democracy, when that flag was elected in 1952 or so. And so the Higduf community would make you think that's a UN flag. Then when they recognized Blue Revolution embraced it, and Eritreans started embracing it, they started reading up on the history. Then people like the guy from Arizona, Ma'abel, whatever his name is, from Arizona, all of a sudden embraced the Malay flag and said it's our flag. Well, the truth is, it is our flag. It is the Eritrean flag. But the thing is, you guys didn't recognize it until Blue Revolution started embracing it more. And that flag came through from the start of the war, of the 1961 30-year war, all the way to independence. And EPLF and ELF, they held that flag. EPLF and that Malay flag held that flag together, because EPLF ousted ELF and made them flee the country, which is why you have generations of advocates now who know the history. So it's very unfortunate that they're trying to hide the history to the YPFDJ community. But what I say is, YPFDJ community is smart enough to research. And once they find out they've been duped, they're going to be the most courageous Eritrean justice seekers by default, because no one likes to be betrayed. And Isaias Afwerki and PFDJ and so forth are duping Eritreans, are betraying Eritreans, are lying to Eritreans. You cannot have a one-party system and expect to be called PFDJ. Your D can't stand for democracy if you have a one-party system. If you're doing it unjustly, you can't even have a J, which hence why they call themselves Hizbi Gumbar, and they leave it at that. They don't even put the D and the J in there anymore. So with that, I would say Zay Hizbi Gumbar. It's not Hizbi Gumbar. They don't represent the people of Eritrea. That's what it comes down to. So you have to declare your rights. You have a duty to protect Eritrean rights. That's what it comes down to. So, Captain, with that, I gotta get going right now. I just want to make those 2 points, brother.
Thank you, Jonas Howie. We appreciate it. Come back anytime if you're free. We'll continue discussion. We're going to shorten the topics a little now because we're kind of running out of time. But let's continue. Thank you. Let me know if you're going to come back. All right. So, it looks a little different now, doesn't it? It's close. There you go. That better? So there's 757 people in attendance. We appreciate it. Share, like. If you're not subscribed to this YouTube channel, subscribe to this YouTube channel. I hear a lot of people on YouTube saying that, so I don't know if that's the thing I'm supposed to say, but I say it nonetheless. It is growing. We did grow by 3,000 people, which is great because it was inactive. So we're doing the great things. If you ladies want to add anything to that, shorten it, and then we continue. Okay, good to go. So we discuss recap of Blue Revolution. What is transnational repression? How Eritrean regime utilizes transnational repression and the diaspora, whether it's taxation, whether it's the church, control the church or control the people. So essentially you're enslaved in the diaspora as well, but you think you're free. Those who go to the Higduf parties and so on, they believe they're supporting their American sovereignty, but in fact they're working against the American sovereignty and the Eritrean sovereignty. And they're actually puppeteering and funding the destruction of Eritreans, because if you fund the regime, You're funding the destruction of your brothers and sisters while you're living a good life in America or wherever you live, because the money that you're sending is utilized to destroy Eritrean people. Hafishawi, that's it. So, and then we discuss, are we blocking Higdef from their First Amendment? No, that's the question. So we discuss 4G. What was the other group? PFDJ, YPFDJ, NCEA, ECCCC, um, Mahabrokom, Sophia Tesfamariam, all these people that are at the embassy that run this gambit. Do you know if you go to the Eritrean embassy, no one's there to greet you or help you? It's just a building. It's sad, right? Unfortunately, that's what it is. You cannot say help me to an Eritrean embassy because they won't help you. Another thing is the community centers in America, they don't support Eritreans. They call themselves 501c organizations, right? And and they get funding by the US government, but then utilize that to do their work for transnational repression. They don't actually utilize that to help Eritrean diaspora newcomers that need language barriers, that need support, that need food, that have babies. Nothing. In fact, to be part of the Eritrean Community Center, first thing I'm going to ask you is, are you opposition or are you supporter of the government? And if you don't say, I support the government you ran away from, then you cannot be part of this organization. It's all open. We know it, and that's what it is. So, are we blocking Higdef from their First Amendment right, moral fight, right versus wrong, compare and contrast both sides? I need you guys to tell me by saying no to transnational repression, no to these festivals that are oppressing the Eritrean people. Are we stopping Eritrean Higdef government supporters who essentially lied on their refugee status, asylum seeking status to enter America? Are you stopping them from their First Amendment rights? Go ahead.
All right, I'll go if that's okay, Bevan.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna go. So, well, first off, us stopping, this is a way, kind of to answer the question that you asked before Jonas left. This is kind of a way that we are putting a stop to transnational repression in diaspora. What keeps a dictator in power is the raising of funds, the disinformation, the spreading of propaganda, and things like that. So us protesting their parties or trying to get it canceled is not us. Does everyone have a right to assemble? Yes. Do you have a right to assemble when you're breaking federal law? Absolutely not. So yes, the bigger fish is to, or the most important thing is to get the Eritrean regime or their agents or the embassies indicted. But until then, it's up to us to put a stop to the propaganda that's being spread for back home, because we in diaspora, we do not want any more funds raised to further oppress our people back in Eritrea. So no, to answer your question, I don't think that we're stopping their rights. They do not have a right to raise money for a foreign government and for a foreign military on U.S. soil.
Facts.
If it's okay, I'm going to add on to that, just to to beef it up, I guess. So, first of all, the notion of Higdef Barayu, the slaves of Isias Afwerki, even talking about rights to me is just quite literally incomprehensible to me personally. You do not allow for your own people back home to practice their God-given human rights. You block them from freedom. You block them from the chance of prosperity. You block them from their freedom of speech, from their freedom to assemble, from their freedom of religion, from their freedom to speak out against the government, from their freedom to gather, work, have unions, whatever it may be. We can go down the list of freedoms that are non-existent in Eritrea. And then you, under the pretense of a fake asylum seeker, because now you are supporting the same regime, sorry, I cannot call them a government because we don't have a constitution, we don't have a rule of land. This is a single-handedly led one man factory. I mean, it's there's nobody else. It's 5 people maybe who are under Isiasa-Afwerki that have some sense of power or some sense of say in whatever's going on in the country. You have no election. I have no opportunity to advocate for myself as a citizen. I have nobody to advocate for me. I have no representatives. I have no opportunity for trial if I am arrested, in the sense of either if I did something criminal or non-criminal. For the most part, in Eritrea, you're getting arrested not because you did something, but either you thought something, you thought to do something, or you heard there was a rumor in the streets that you were sick, somebody has started about you, and then you're arrested. So everything is baseless, it's senseless, baseless. No, it's unjust. And then you want to come to a free world and talk about your rights and your what's the word I'm looking for? Help me out here, Captain.
Privilege.
Huh?
You want to talk about your freedom of speech, your
right, the human rights that we all have been given by the grace of God. So this is a conversation that I believe should not be had, because first, ask for the rights for your people to be respected and to be given in your homeland, and then we could talk about rights. But so at the end of the day, to end that topic right there, that's hypocrisy. You are hypocrites. You are hypocrites who have backlash or spoken against, reputed your government, your regime, this regime. You come back and now you are, kneeling down to Isiasa-Afwerki and the regime that exists in Eritrea. Now, if we go further and look at Executive Order 14046, it states in Section 1, Paragraph D, Secretary of Treasury is authorized to impose any sanctions to be a political subdivision, agency, or instrumentality of the government of Eritrea or its ruling party, People's Front for Democracy and Justice. Like Jonas said, democracy and justice does not even exist in Eritrea. So why you guys have that in your names, go ahead, figure that out. We need to work. You guys need to fix that. People's Front for Dictatorship and Killing, Violence, Oppression, make that your new name. So yes, they do not have a right to assemble. If we look based off Executive Order 14046, set by Joe Biden, it completely blocks that ability, because we know that the festivals that they are having are funding the regime, that they are getting together capital that's furthering oppression in Eritrea, and also furthering conflict in the Horn of Africa against our neighbors, and then keeping us in senseless wars, senseless conflict, and that's how you continue the reign of dictatorship.
Thank you, Fabian. So let me share this video and tell me what you guys think. And this is an Eritrean, and obviously, I don't know if his injuries came from Eritrea. This was powerful to me, and the fact that, listen to this.
I decided to go back home to Eritrea when I was 11 years old. For a few years back then, I got to see Eritrea at its happiest. People seemed to be in a constant state of euphoria because we had finally gotten our independence after 30 long years of war for independence. People were debating government policies openly in the media. Independence Day celebrations seemed to go on for weeks. Even though I was young, I remember using my own pocket money to buy private newspapers just to read about heroic tales of freedom fighters. Basic human rights seemed to be a given at that time. But slowly, telltale signs of oppression started to pop up. Journalists and ministers from the same ruling party were rounded up and made to disappear just for calling out for democratic reforms. The only semi-explanation given by the government that they were traitors and that they were planning to sell out the country. No proof was given. Despite this, some people believe the government's narrative. But when the regime comes after you, you start to wake up. University students were hunted down like criminals and collectively punished for protesting an unfair government policy. Overnight, free press was gone. Our only university was shut down and replaced with government colleges that were basically military schools. And students that attend these colleges, and basically every single adult in Eritrea, are forced into lifelong military service. In name, they call it national service, but in reality, it's just modern-day slavery. Lifelong military conscription until your body simply stops functioning. And regardless of what you think about this, or whatever opinion you have, you can never say it aloud, otherwise that or else threat of the regime comes to you. Even though I was assigned a military unit after college, I didn't go because I did not want to be a slave to anyone. If this had been an actual national service where you're building your nation, that would be an honor. But this was simply enriching a few individuals in power. I did not want to spend my life in a colonel's farm, or building yet again another villa for a general, or laboring away in the gold mines.
Deep.
I refused to be part of this. Unfortunately for me, there exists a government surveillance system called GIFA in Eritrea. GIFA is when military personnel and government agents search through towns and cities to catch people like me who refused to join, and some others who went missing from the so-called national service. Due to this, I had to hide with some friends, relatives in different areas most of the time. It was a constant state of fear for me.
Okay, now, so here you go. There you go. Testimonies. Anyone can refute this and say, Feven, you were in Eritrea. Cappy, when you was small, you left Eritrea. Baby Nerka. Helu. Abziha Abihi. Hele. You see his hands, right? See his hands? If you pay attention to his hands. Not sure if that happened to Eritrea. I know young kids in Seattle, some areas throughout the USA, their arms are broken, their legs are broken, they're handicapped. And I asked them what happened. They can't work. Oh, when I was in Sawa, they tied me, they broke me with a black stick, or they tied me so long I lost circulation in my arm, they had to amputate my arm. So these are life stories of Eritreans in the diaspora that are telling you what has happened to them. So many tales. Why is the diaspora not willing to hear their brothers and protect their brothers? All for what? For one man, for one party. Millions of Eritreans suffering at the expense of one individual, and no one cares. That's what, in a nutshell, what this boils down to. Now, I know that's a tough video to listen to. When I saw it, I was actually like thinking to myself, like, man, there's a lot of Eritreans that suffer. So my next point to you ladies is, I was talking with a few people and I was like, hey, you know what? Everyone's getting, going to court, going through things. We're all, Haggis, Gele, we're going through a lot of things, right? You guys know I don't need to discuss it here. Why don't we turn everyone into plan A, utilize our brain, and combat Higdef? We've already achieved. We've normalized the opposition. We're known. The world now knows us. Europe knows us, Canada knows us, Germany knows us, Africa knows us, Russia knows us, Ukraine knows us, USA knows us, Everyone, Australia, everyone. We even have in South Africa's talking about I stand with Brigade Nahamadu. So my question is, now we got the attention. Hey, hello, we're over here. Over here. Anybody care? Because before no one cared. Eritrea? What's Eritrea? Never heard of it. Nipsey? Right? That's all you got, right? So now here we are. We move everyone a Blue Revolution to Twitter. Gave classes on how to utilize Twitter. Lo behold, we started engaging all these parliamentary members. Norway, Sweden, Germany. Some of them they're doing the duffel bag drag. Like we're pulling them as hard as we can. Hey, look, 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 look. Finally, it resonated. Marsawi from Marsawi, Hawana Marsawi Tasirus that was arrested. He called me. He said, Cappy, I would like to come to your live and thank the people. I was freed because of your Twitter campaign. Our Twitter campaign. Can you believe this? Because of the Twitter campaign, Marsawi and Asar Tahari Yahwatne, our brothers, 11 of our brothers, were released because there were pressure on the parliament for supporting a dictator in a democratic nation. Open mic.
Go ahead.
What do you think? Do you think Twitter, Fevin, do you think Twitter is something that we need to normalize and everyone needs to get involved in and campaign and make sure our brother voices are heard?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So we've seen in the past few weeks or really a couple months now, the attention in our wave has moved to Twitter, and that's where the diplomatic people are. That's where the policymakers are. That's where the guys in power, the guys who wear the suits, the guys who can make real change. That's where they are. Of course, as a community, the Eritrean people has been on Facebook for a long time. Facebook is more, something that was initially meant for personal blogging and stuff like that. And our diaspora is just, quite frankly, it's not on Facebook. So, our message today is more focused on the global community and then also really specifically on our diaspora, the Eritrean diaspora. So, there's a lot of people who use TikTok, there's people who use Instagram, but we don't see the people in power, the policymakers. Diplomacy cannot be done on these platforms. Yes, you can spread awareness, and yes, I'm not saying stop using those platforms. Absolutely spread those platforms. Because, and I would like to get back to this point, but the first initiative that we as Brigade Hamadu have to do, and I'm taking this quote by quote from our very much respected Memher Bene Garazgir first initiative that he calls on all of us to take part in is Sifah. Sifah Malitka means spread awareness, if we're going to translate that to English. Spread awareness. So, talk to your friends, talk to those who aren't of Eritrean descent. Let them know what the Blue Revolution is. Let them know what this fight is. A lot of time we see that the global community is really just taking what Brigade Hamadu is. They're taking any of that information. They're getting that from highlights. They're getting that from reels. They're getting that from 30-second clips, 1-minute clip. That's not going to explain who we are. Most of the time, that's a lot of Higdef that's spreading propaganda and taking all the, let's say the highlight moments of the face-to-face interactions we've had with them, the moments of struggle and conflict. That is not only what Brigade Hamadu is. Brigade Hamadu is a movement. It is a grassroots movement of youth, of the older generation as well, because they are our forefathers and foremothers who are in this fight for justice. It is a movement, a wave of individuals coming together for the same initiative to fight to reclaim our land, to fight for our people, because without a people, there is no land. Point blank, period. First, we fight for our people, then we fight for our land. because the people who inhabit the land develop the land. They grow, they make an economy. They do everything in order to continue the sovereignty and the continued independent state of the country. So going back to what we were discussing, Brigadier Hamadou is a group of individuals who is using their voice and diplomatically, so like he said, in the making diplomatic relations, speaking with whoever, whatever people in power there are and wherever you reside. For us in the United States, we want to reach out to city council. We want to reach out to state reps. We want to reach out to FBI, Homeland Security. These are all people who can help us in bringing about real change. The state of Treasury. These are people who can, if we tell them this is what's taking place, this is transnational repression, this is a militia front of the dictator regime in America, then they will bring about those change, those initiatives. However, we have to voice that, and we can voice that through means and platforms like Twitter. Another thing, if I can add, is, I'm losing my train of thought, but Helen, I'll let you take on and I'll come back.
Go ahead, Helen.
Okay, yeah, so Fevin made some really good points. Yes, Twitter is a great platform, that's the understatement, to spread awareness and to kind of get your message across to the right audience. For example, Captain, he brought up a video where Senator Jeff Merkley is pushing a bill for transnational repression. So that tells us that our target, our goal is Senator Jeff Merkley and people like Senator Jeff Merkley, people who believe in his beliefs. So what you do is you create your tweets. You can either copy and paste our tweets. Sometimes there are link trees, or click to tweet links. That way people don't have to worry about typing or misspelling things incorrectly. But there's that. Or you can just simply copy and paste what Captain is writing, what Jonas is writing, what Fevin is writing. And there are so many other great people as well who have great messages and tweets. You make sure you mention those people and make sure that you use the correct hashtags. The hashtags, hashtag Blue Revolution, hashtag transnational repression. That way that these government officials, all they have to do is click on the hashtag, and all the tweets and all the information that we have is right there for them to have access to.
Yeah, I'll add on. So the Blue Revolution, of course, we know that we are action based. We are action based, and that's what makes us different from a lot of the other opposition groups that have been fighting for a long time before us. But with Twitter, we can also be diplomatic. The reason why Twitter is also important is because for a long time, we were not on Twitter. So Twitter was controlled by Higdef. They were spreading a lot of false narrative, a lot of propaganda. So now we're almost seeing that we're catching up to try to change the narrative, shift the story, change, tell the real story of what's really taking place in Eritrea. And it's so amazing to see that we are really dipping our toes and taking control of all arenas across the board. We took control of taking control with action. We did that. We took diplomatic control. We spread awareness. We got the global community on our side. Now we're changing the narrative, this lies that they've been telling, lies of Yamane, Minister of Disinformation, as Helen said. All these lies that he was the only active one on, and him and his fake accounts, his fake followers that he has on Twitter, spreading just lies and lies and lies and showing a fake romanticized picture of Eritrea. Showing, most recently, they are posting pictures with Russia. If we go to Twitter and go on his page, you can see that they are showing a great relationship between the two, a diplomatic relation with Russia, a known enemy of the United States. And you have people of the 4G, the Fourth Front, militia front, working in the United States. This is something that the US government has to take action about. They have to dig into this. They have to investigate this. These are enemies of the state. These are enemies to democracy. These are enemies to the American people. So diaspora has a big role in this, because we've now taken control of the diplomatic narrative. We've taken control of all platforms. We've taken control of the global community's awareness. Now, diaspora, what is your part? Diaspora for a long time was controlled by HIGDEF. If you look at YFPTJ, or whatever you want to call them, there's no, like I said, no democracy, no justice. They've been, like you were talking about earlier, they've had this, really smart way of controlling the Eritreans, the youth Eritreans in diaspora, by trying to get them engaged in the cultural portion or the cultural sides of what it may be, for what makes them Eritrean, their identity. But our identity goes way past that. Our identity is not just about dancing. Our identity is not just about our food. Our identity is not just about, having fun and getting to mingle with other Eritreans. Your identity lies in the bloodshed that was put down by our forefathers and foremothers. That you're not giving respect to that identity if you don't respect the blood that was shed for you, the reason they shed that blood for you. This is not the freedom, this is not the independence that they laid down their lives for. This is not it. Their own kids, their own daughters and sons are residing in diaspora. They live in exile for the same land that they put their life down for. What does that tell you? So diaspora, it is your time to control the narrative, and you control the narrative by where people can listen and where policymakers can listen and where we can enact real change. And that is today on Twitter.
Absolutely. Thank you, Fabian. That was eloquently stated. This Merkley, Rubio, Cardin, Haggerty take a stand against foreign government trampling foreign governments, trampling human rights within the United States and beyond. Now, I'm not going to dig too deep into this, but let me scroll down and read this a little bit. Bipartisan, so Republicans and Democrats alike, comprehensive legislation represents a bold new frontier in the fight against transnational repression. This was initiated March 16, 2023. Washington, D.C., Oregon's U.S. Senator Jeff Merkley joined forces with U.S. Senators Mark Rubio, Ben Cardin, and Bill Haggerty. These young Republicans, Democrat, or when they're working together, this is bipartisan. That's huge. Look, and that's the Transnational Repression Act, if you want to know about it. So we're probably going to start campaigning soon to support these senators, and we've been tagging them. Everyone that's not on Twitter, you need to come on Twitter. No more excuses. I don't know how to use Twitter, but we give classes. It's easy. Come and support us. And then I also would like to share this. Let me stop sharing the screen real quick, and then tell me what you guys think of this. It's sad, but it's necessary. I know we don't have a lot of time, so let me share the screen real quick. And how they're utilizing the youth at a young age and creating what Shabia is doing. Right? I know someone said, why don't you identify Shabia as the enemy? Well, I have a different perspective in the way I see Eritrean politics. I believe Shabia, ELF, EPLF, even Shabia is oppressed. Let me tell you how and why I have that ideology. Most Shabia parents have ran away from Eritrea, and most of them are opposition. There's no real such thing as Degafti or supporters of Eritrea. Everyone that left Eritrea is just either they're like me and you, us, who say, hey, our country's in bad shape, or they lie to themselves and say our country's great. But technically, Shabia has also been crushed by HIGDEF. HIGDEF is running Eritrea as a business. there's Shabia opposition too. There's people that used to be in Shabia that are now opposition, right? And there's Jabha opposition. There's all kinds of opposition. Again, to me, the enemy is the government of Eritrea and the way they systematically have turned the country into a business, right? This is PFDJ, Higdev, call it what you want. It did start off from the Shabia ideology. That's why most people say Shabia is the enemy and they want to remove that Shabia ideology. But you have to be careful when you speak like that because then you would say Bitu Der Abraha, right? You would say Jaganu, the Petro Solomon, Siham Ali. So when you say, you got to be careful how you state it because there's these youth, these kids. When you say Shabia is the enemy, then he's thinking to himself, well, my dad and mom are the enemy. You know what I mean? Because they all live here in the diaspora. So we have to be very cognizant of that. And we have to explain it in a manner where even EPLF got hijacked. Your thoughts on that before I share the video?
I'm glad that you brought that up because I think sometimes as opposition, we want to disassociate ourselves with Higdev so much that we have to kind of remember, and this is just my opinion, but we just have to kind of remember the history here. We kind of want to, and I say disassociate with them because we know that Higdev, they, till this day, they claim Shabia, they scream Shabia. And in reality, it's a different political party that has taken over Eritrea right now. We have to understand that. Shabia is a part of the party that helped bring independence. Also, we do have heroic people who we advocate for, Petro Solomon, like you mentioned, and the whole G15, who are also a part of Shabia. So our enemy, to me, my enemy is more so PFDJ, because like you said, Shabia has also been oppressed. Shabia has also been hijacked. So you guys want to go to the next bullet point, or if you want to, looks like you have a clip here.
Yeah, let me share this and we'll shorten it, and then I want everyone to see this, and then we can tell me what you guys think of this. Well, and so there it goes. So, so is this what festivals? Is this what Higdef? Isaiasism equals Eritreanism. They utilize Shabia as a speaking point to galvanize and gather the Eritrean people and the youth by playing off their parents' history, right? Whether you're Shabia, Jabha, Gale, it means something to you because of you're proud of your parents, but they utilize that against you to make you seem you're very unpatriotic. They want you to be more Isaiasism equals Eritreanism, vice versa. So can the opposition actually understand this and say, look, it ain't about Shabia or Jabha or whatever. Higdef just has to go, period. Quit playing off our people, our fathers' history, and so on. So we got to understand this, but maybe the people correlate Shabia because how Higdef began, right? Because it's Forki Shabia, and then it turned into Higdef. They've been hijacked and oppressed and deceased too, and that's that. Let's go to the next bullet point. Hello.
As a closing, as a transition, Captain, what I like to say to all diaspora, let's not live in the past. Let's think about our future. You learn from history is your teacher. History is there in order not to make the same mistakes, in order to fix what went wrong in the past, in order to better your people, your time now in society, as a part of society, and how do you do better as an individual. as a people, as a nation. That is the point of history. The point of history is not to keep me living in the past. Let's think about our future. Let's think about our tomorrow.
All right, so Helu, let me ask you guys. I know we have a few points that we're going to wrap it up, but before we do, what are some false narratives and propaganda that are utilized against you? For example, they call me Agame, they call me TPLF, they call me everything that I'm not, right? So why does Higdef and PFDJ and Isaias and all these minister of misinformation, why do they paint Eritrean justice seekers as Tigrayans or Amharu or whatever? Is it because they have a hatred for Tigrayans, or is it because they want to utilize that to ensure that the Eritrean community does not accept us? 1,300 people are listening. Go ahead.
That reason is both reasons that you stated. More importantly, is to completely you know, always in a court of law. um, Whenever people are on trial, when there's a witness, what lawyers always try to do is discredit the witness. So people who are always telling the truth, people always find a way to discredit them. So with us, because we are, being the voice for the voiceless, we don't have their beliefs. Their way to discredit us is to say that we're not Eritreans, we are Tagaru, which kind of paints this picture that us being Tagaru, we have motive. We're basically anti-Eritrea. What we're going to say is going to be anything that comes out of our mouth are lies, because we have a different agenda, pretty much. So that's one lie that we hear, that we're not Eritrean, and that Eritrean politics shouldn't. Basically, it's none of our business, and just stay out of it. What's another one?
So what are false narratives and propaganda? You said they call you Tigrayan, they call you Agame. So the Blue Revolution pretty much saying, call me what you want. I'm Eritrean and fighting for Eritrea.
And sometimes, and because they can't, at the end of the day, everyone, even being Hegdef, you know people who are Eritrean. You even have family members who are Eritrean that are part of the Blue Revolution. So instead, they would say that the leaders of the Blue Revolution, or Bergana Hamadu, are all Tigaru, or support a ideology where Eritrea is a part of Tigray. One.
So you're telling me Abai Tigray. People actually believe in Abai Tigray. Obviously, there's people with different ideologies and agenda. Do you yourself believe in Abai Tigray?
No.
Why?
I 100% believe in Eritrea sovereignty, respect Eritrea's sovereignty. I believe that we should have diplomatic relations with Tigray. They are our neighbors, just as much as we should have diplomatic relations with Sudan. This is just my belief again, but Blue Revolution does not have a leader. So one person's ideology does not define everyone's agenda. At the end of the day, we all have the same goal here. We want regime change. We want rights for our people. But these people, they are against Eritrea's sovereignty. They don't respect Eritrea's independence. They want us to be a part of Tigray. These are just ways to kind of discredit our voices, or discredit the people, discredit the movement, to avoid people from coming onto our side and asking the questions that we ask. So yeah, but to answer your question, I don't believe in Abai Tigray. I support Tagaru 100%. I stand with them. They are our neighbors. We're brothers and sisters. As an Eritrean person, a part of the Tigrinya tribe, we do speak the same language. We do have a lot of similarities with each other. But again, diplomatic relations only.
Thank you. Helu, Fevin, let me ask you a question. You're Eritrean, I'm Eritrean, Helu's Eritrean. So then if the youth who grew up with us, everyone that grew up with us knows our parents, they know who we are, What's the whole point of calling us Tigrayans? Are we supposed to hate Tigrayans because they called us Tigrayans? In fact, is it wrong for me to say no to genocide? As any American or anyone with a heart or brain would say no to genocide? Why is that a bad thing? You're Mike.
Honestly, their narrative is absolutely humorsome to me. It shows me their lack of intelligence. Because I'm coming to you with fact-based information. Nobody can discredit the oppression and the silent genocide that has been taking place within Eritrea for 30 plus years. You can't discredit that. We have political prisoners who've been arrested for over 20 years. We have young youth who cannot live within their country because they're scared of Gifa. They're scared to be taken captive by the government, by the regime, to be kidnapped from their homes. They're scared of being slave to the regime after going to Sawa without, with indefinite military service. They're scared to not even be able, let alone provide for themselves, but not even provide for their family. So if me calling for justice and saying agap, for saying that enough is enough and what is taking place is wrong, for me being human, and for me standing up for my counterpart of humanity, if that makes me less of my Eritrean identity, so be it. Because I am a human first before any other identity. I am a child of God first before any other identity. And I have brothers and sisters that are also children of God, that I have a duty to stand up for, that I have a duty to be a voice for, because I've been given that blessing and that grace by being born here in the land of the free, where I have the right and the ability and the voice to make a change or to be voices of change for them. So it just shows their lack of intelligence. They have no, factual information to discredit anything that we're saying, because they know it's true. I mean, they left it. They ran away from it. They saw it with their own eyes. They were in Libya. They were attempted shootings were tried on them when they were escaping the country because of the shoot to kill policy. They've been people who were victims of Gifa. They were victims of poverty. They're victims of so many things. I mean, it's impossible to list everything now. So we, the Blue Revolution, individuals, found that we stand in the Blue Revolution. We are fighting in the movement. Those of us who are justice seekers, we stand for pro-peace in the Horn of Africa with all of our neighbors. We are pro-sovereignty. At the end of the day, I have a history. I have forefathers, foremothers, Jaganu, who laid down their lives, who laid down their blood for this country. Nobody takes that away from me. You don't take away my identity from me. I don't care if I wasn't born in Eritrea. My bloodline speaks for itself. The people, my ancestors, they speak for me. So nobody takes my identity away from me. And pay attention to one thing, Captain. Do you see anybody from the opposition group using that narrative against them? Do we say that they're non-Eritrean? Oh, you don't support this, you're not Eritrean. Hey, Barayu, you guys are Eritreans. I don't need to prove your identity to me. I don't need it. At the end of the day, my fight is also for you. I am fighting for you, each and every one of you. Tomorrow, in our free Eritrea, when we reclaim Eritrea, I want you to stand by me. I want you to practice and have those same rights that I so yearn for my people, that I so yearn for me. I so yearn for my future kids. I yearn that for you too. They're Eritreans. They whatever, when we go back home, when we lay down the rule of law, when there's constitution, they're going to be tried by the law and tried each and every one of us will be tried the same way, because there is no inferior, superior. None of that works in a democracy. Okay.
Let me add to what you said. See, Fevin, she brought up how these people are the very victims of the regime. They've been forced to national service. They've been harmed, escaping the border in the shoot to kill policy. Their family, even after leaving the country, their families are victims of the regime. And you know what I think it is? Just like you said, that because they call the opposition, they claim that we're not Eritreans. And it's kind of scary that some of these people who support the regime, who, they claim they know what's wrong, but they still support the regime. It's almost as if they're scared that their Eritrean identity card will be taken away. The Eritreanism will be taken away. If they cannot differentiate Mengistu government with Hizbi. So criticizing the government to them is criticizing the country as a whole. The Mengistu Mengistu is like basically being against your country, betraying your country, betraying your people. But in reality, it's the opposite. You can criticize your government and still love your country. All of us here, we are anti-government, right? We're anti Eritrean regime.
Eritrea.
But we all love Eritrea. We all love Eritrea just as much as they do. But one thing that's undebatable, that's not up for debate, is that we definitely love our people more than they do, because they love the president, they love the Mengistu, they love PFDJ, Shabia, and we are pro-people. We are for the people. So
I'll say that to you, Helen. Somebody who is advocating for pro-coexistence with their neighbors in order to benefit their own nation, to benefit Eritrea, for the future of economic growth, developmental growth, technological growth. All of that benefits the people. All of that benefits the poor. All of that benefits those who are oppressed now. So if me, Helen, Captain, us, all of us, by saying we want this, we are pro working with others in order to benefit the country as a whole, if that makes us against our people, we're living on two different worlds at this point. We're living on
another narrative. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Another narrative that we hear a lot nowadays, it's if you guys claim you love your people, you guys claim that you are anti-Eritrean government, yet you go to our parties to try to stop it and try to harm the people, their attendees there, right? The attendees as in the supporters. And they say that this as protesting the events are not an effective way to change, to bring change. But in reality, like I said before, opposition has been here for a long time. We have been advocating for their rights as well, for years, for decades. There's not anything that we haven't tried. They don't want us to protest. They want us to stop protesting their events. But what is it that they want us to do? Do they want us to go to seminars and ask questions? Because we did that, including myself. I got kicked out. Anyone that goes, you're kicked out. Do they want us to protest outside the Eritrean embassy? That's been done. The opposition has never been addressed by the Eritrean regime ever as Eritreans until the Blue Revolution. And what I think now, something that I'm seeing is before, like I said before, for decades, we were going to them to have a discussion, to have a table discussion about Eritrean politics. That time is done. They will be coming to us now to have a discussion about regime change. How can we make Eritrea a better place?
Excellent. Thank you, sisters. So I would like to add to that, and I'll shorten it because we got to wrap it up. The problem, the opposition and the Higdef, and even some Tagaru and Ethiopians and so on, collectively, the Habesha people do not know how to separate justice seeker, humanitarian, politics. Kulu politics. They turn everything into politics. So as an American, Eritrean American, if I say no to genocide in Ethiopia, somehow it becomes political. They just don't know how to differentiate that, which is sad. You don't have to be a politician to say no to destruction, unaliving people, and so on. Right. So that's something that we have to learn to separate. Furthermore, Eritrean sovereignty and identity. Let me ask you, ladies. Brigade Hamadu is a pro-healthy diplomatic, working on diplomacy and relations with everyone. We don't want to hurt anyone. Blue Revolution is all about pro-peace in the Horn of Africa, peaceful coexistence for economic, like Fevin said, development growth. Do you why do people? There's 1,500 people listening to you guys. That's how much people care about this. Why do Higdef attempt to make it seem like the opposition doesn't believe in the Lulawunata Eritrea? Go ahead, Fed.
Sorry, Captain, can you repeat that last part? I think he had to step away for a second. Captain, if you can hear me, if you can repeat that last part.
You want me to repeat? So my question to you is,
It kind of cut off a little bit.
Oh, okay, sorry. Let me open this. Why is the narrative painted that because you're Blue Revolution, because you're opposition, you don't believe Lula Aunat the sovereignty of Eritrea? You don't believe in the sovereignty of Eritrea. But in fact, we believe in the sovereignty of Eritrea and the freedom of our Eritrean people so it can rise to the level of a great nation. And that's what we're fighting for. But the narrative, and this is the last point on the narrative that they push is you're not Hagarawi. You don't believe in Eritrea. You don't believe in the sovereignty of Eritrea. When in fact, I believe the solution for the Blue Revolution members, this is my Natirito, my own view, is we need to be more Hagarawi than them and say Eritrea is ours, not yours, right? And flip it and be like, we believe in Eritrea, and you guys are the imposters who hijacked Eritrea from us. Give me a short answer, both of you, Fevin and Helen. Go with Fevin first, and then we'll go to the last two topics. Go ahead.
I mean, that's a very broad topic that you just picked up there. But if I can answer that in a short way. So Isaias Afwerki's agenda or way to control Eritrea with power grip or control through tight fist has been A, spread of propaganda, B, demoralize the population and demoralize our youth. And also make sure the youth is not educated. If you don't educate the youth, if you don't educate the people, you don't have you don't have thinkers, you don't have reasoners, you don't have group discussions, and you don't have people questioning why things are the way they are because they don't know any better. It's their norm. And the biggest way he's controlled his continued seat or, continued seat to dictatorship is by having this endless conflict, endless fight with our neighbors. So, northern Ethiopia, Djibouti, everywhere in the Horn of Africa, there's nowhere he has not put his hand in. So he has set this propaganda or set this narrative to his agents, his mafia, to the slaves, Barayu. He's telling them anything that's coming from the outside is a threat. Anybody who supports Tigray, anybody who supports America, anybody who supports any big power is a threat to us. So now I, as a humanitarian first and foremost, by standing up with my brothers and sisters from Tigray, from a humanitarian standpoint, right? Because no harm, no violence, unacceptable upon all humans. I don't accept that for anybody. Just like America stood up when the conflict in Ukraine took place. Okay? Humanitarianism. That's all it is. So he's held this narrative. Anybody that is siding with them, they're not Eritrean. He's brainwashed them. It's the brainwashed narrative. So now you have the Blue Revolution, members of the Blue Revolution, who are coming and saying, okay, we stood with Tigray when they were in their active genocide, as we still see taking place today, when they were in, very hard times, when they're suffering famine, poverty. And now we are put with the threat. Now we're not Eritrean. So now you keep telling them, hey, there's still a threat. There's still somebody who's threatening our regime, who's threatening us. All power, all human resources go to the front lines. Keep sending our people. Keep pushing war. Keep pushing conflict. Keep killing off anybody that's left in the country. Senseless. It's all senseless war.
Right.
But it keeps it keeps giving him a reason to stay in power, because there's a threat, so Isias Afwerki has to stay in power. Well, there's still a threat, no election. Sorry. There's still a threat, can't give you a constitution. There's still a threat, can't give you freedom. There's still a threat, can't open the borders. Sorry. Yeah. It's just, as long as there's a threat, he's going to have a reason. As long as there's a threat, Higdef has a reason. As long as there's a threat, the silent genocide that has been put upon us is not going to end. So we, the Blue Revolution, we are the end to his reasons.
Absolutely. So let me wrap this up. And so I'm going to combine 3 questions. You got to shorten it and give it to me in a minute and a half each if you can. So check it out. What is the diaspora's role moving forward? What's next for the Blue Revolution? What's next for Eritreans outside the country? Helen, wrap it up.
Okay, so, all right. First one, what's next? You know what? I'm just going to pull it up.
Moving forward, yeah. What do you expect from this?
And then I'll hit on the. You want to hit on the other points?
All right. So what's next for the Blue Revolution? To me, what I think is next is, I think that, for example, what happened in Norway, the fact that the parliament is talking about a transnational repression bill, that is progress. So just like what we should do is pretty much, at one point Norway was the target. We should have, next country should be maybe Sweden, or areas in Canada, stuff like that. So pretty much is to tackle transnational oppression in diaspora, and focus on specific government officials and things like that. Another thing is what's next for Eritrea?
So actually, I want to add this. So you and I speak English. There's a lot of Eritrean in the opposition of the opposition that don't speak English, right? Newcomers. How can we work with them? Do you think we should separate ourselves and try to lead them, or should we incorporate them? Because I see a lot of gaps in miscommunication. The way we move a lot faster, right, versus the way they move. Sorry, tough question, curveball. Let's go.
So the way we engage with them is, if we have trouble communicating with them ourselves, then always have someone who there's people who are willing to help us. Like we have Henok Ari PM, who speaks English and Tigrinya, who can kind of deliver our messages in a way where everyone can understand, right? Another thing that I think what's next for the Blue Revolution is I think I see representation of all tribes in the Blue Revolution. What's next for Eritrea and Eritreans inside and outside Eritrea is, I think, like I mentioned before, a conversation. Because I think now like I said before, for the first time, the Eritrean regime has acknowledged Eritrean opposition, which means it has to mean something, right? So I think a table discussion, or maybe HICDEF themselves will start asking questions. Who knows?
Absolutely. Thank you. Go ahead, Fevu, go ahead and wrap it up. So you heard the question, what's moving forward? What do you plan? And then if you can, I noticed you and I had this discussion before about the ones who speak English versus the newcomers. I feel like we move so much faster, and it could just be my assessment. I could be wrong, but they're so careful and torn between moral obligations, and there's just a lot of things I see that actually slow the struggle, and it's a little frustrating for people like you and I. But I just try to meet people in the middle, especially if they're new versus the ones that's been here. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think those of us, from the diaspora, I think us forming just starting this platform and alone is a huge deal. I mean, we are, spreading so much awareness for those who didn't have, the information because of a lack of or because of a language barrier, or because of cultural barriers. And we're breaking that for them today. So, I mean, that's the first step. We are very much black and white thinkers. We see black and white. We don't really see any in between, and that's why I think we work so well working together. So it's important. We have everybody in the blue movement, the Blue Revolution. We are all brothers and sisters. We work together. We collaborate, and we do action-based things. However, when you work with somebody that is a like-minded thinker like you, has a like-minded mindset, has like-minded ideologies, morals, backgrounds, all of that, that's everything that's beneficial to you moving forward, and for you to be as to make change in the best way, I should say. So diaspora, we have a big role. A lot of people, when they see me fighting this fight and using my voice and being an activist, I hear a lot of the times, well, why do you care? Like, you don't know anything, you weren't in Eritrea, you weren't born and raised in Eritrea. You didn't see anything. You were born here in America. You didn't see any struggle. You didn't see anything. You're just hearing what everybody has to say. I am a reasoner. I ask questions. There's a reason why that nobody leaves their country or leaves to exile, leaves their mother and father for no reason. I mean, there's a reason to everything. There's a reason to everything. Why are people escaping? Why are people risking their lives just to flee from this country? Why? You have to be able to ask why, always. Always ask why, diaspora, always. Even to HICDEF, I mean, you are not my target. Our discussion, long gone. I'm not discussing with you. Like Helen said, you come to us. Tomorrow, when we reclaim Eritrea, I want to live in peace with you. Right now, you are not my counterpart. I'm fighting against you. Okay? But diaspora, for those of us who know justice, who believe in the fundamental pillars of democracy, of human rights, of humanity, we have a responsibility, and probably the biggest responsibility, to be voices for our people, because we were brought up on the fundamentals of democracy. We were brought up on justice. We were brought up on the legal system. We are able to practice our own rights. We are the main ones that should be advocating for our people, because it is very hard for our fathers, mothers, relatives who come from Eritrea, who have to now assimilate to, a free world. They're not used to it. They don't know the same rights that we know. They don't know the system that we know, that we grew up in. So we have more of a responsibility, I believe, to be voices in order to spread awareness to the global community, to, you know, spread humanitarian awareness. And we tomorrow morning are also the same ones, because this country is just as much ours as it is our father, you know, for fathers and mothers, for those who came from Eritrea, it's just as much ours. Tomorrow, I, as, you know, somebody who has a career, who has the ability to do a lot of things, I want to reclaim my land and go back home and develop and, you know, serve my people, serve my land. So we do have a big, big responsibility, because we are, you know, we think in a way that's different from those who come from back home. And we have tools and resources. We have we are educated people. As an educated thinker in school, you're asked, you don't just take what's heard and you digest it and take it as is. You ask why. And you do your own research, you study. So I wanted to, lastly, as my closing statement, go back to Memher Bayanis, or Wuki as we know him, go back to his 3 initiatives. And I mean, I love it. And this is kind of what I go by in my day-to-day when I'm, you know, in this fight, in this movement, in this revolution. Sufa, spread awareness, as we spoke. Let the global community know what's going on. Talk about the silent genocide that's taking place in Eritrea. Let them know what our people are going through. Let them know about the evil and the violence that's taking place. Second, Netzir. Netzir means basically figure out, stand firm on your ideology, your stance, make it known to those around you what you believe in, what your stance in, and what your fight is, and who you're fighting for. And those who are around you, make sure that they are like-minded thinkers. Separate yourself from the enemy and know who you're fighting for, what your purpose is, and what your goal is. Sifah, Natsir, Ta'awat. Be victorious. Be victorious. I mean, that explains itself. By doing these things, doing the diplomatic work, doing, you know, putting in, being the change that you want, we will be victorious. Staying collective, staying united, focusing on our North Star, focusing, not being, we can't look left and right. We can't focus on what's happening this week, what's happening. Never lose sight of your goal. Know what your goal is. Reclaim Eritrea. Set our people free. Be victorious. And we will bring about change. And the end of Higdef. Zaman Higdef Katab.
Thank you. Favena. Okay, Helen, your closing remarks.
All right. My closing remarks is it's been a long fight, but let's keep the path that we're going. Let's focus on how to move forward. Change is close. I believe it is. And pretty much, let's keep in mind the things that we brought up in this discussion: transnational repression, the hashtags we should be using, how to stop transnational repression. You guys can contact my Twitter is probably linked somewhere. Maybe Captain will tag it somewhere. You guys have Captain's info, Evan's info, if anyone has any questions. But yeah, let's just work together in harmony. Try to stay positive. We all have the same agenda at the end of the day. Let's not let outsiders get in between us. And yeah, this has been a great panel, a great platform. Hopefully it's something that everyone can take. Hopefully it's something that everyone can take from. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Helu. Thank you, Feven. This was an excellent discussion, very professional. The diaspora brilliance. It was great. So this YouTube is for Tigrina speakers, for Dutch speakers, for English speakers, for all Blue Revolution that would like to utilize it. So we're going to continue this. If you're not subscribed to this YouTube channel, subscribe. If you're not following these sisters, Feven and Helen and Twitter, follow them. To find them, Kani, you can find Captain Editor on Twitter, and there we usually share each other's tweets and retweets. There's a whole movement on Twitter, and we implore you to come make changes in law, history, be a part of the movement, and fight for a free Eritrea, a better Eritrea, and fight for our people. Thank you, ladies. I will see you soon. It was an honor to have you both here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye. Okay, what? There's 1,787 people here. Almost Katisha Sub, low. I appreciate the support. Is in Hawatna. They're very brilliant. They're great. They're, amazing. Share this on Facebook. Share it. If you're on Facebook, come to YouTube. Twitter. If you're not on Twitter, you need to get Twitter. Tizahilala. In Marsawi and them, it was because of Twitter, not too much, and the freedoms of the whole. That's why they got free. Twitter campaign. 1,800 people here. All of you should have a Twitter account. We need you in the Blue Revolution. I am speaking as Dawit Captain, and Nafsay Wakila is out of Zalo. I'm not speaking on behalf of anyone else other than myself as a Blue Revolution member. When I open these forums and I have these discussions, it's for educational reasons, and I would like to shed light on the brilliance of Eritrean diaspora and how we're proud of our country and our people, but we despise the government, want to remove the government from Eritrea for our people. Thank you, Dawit. I appreciate it. The Blue Revolution Alana. 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 Captain. Have a nice one.